Guten Morgen. Guten Morgen. So good morning once again. Trucker here, and today we're back on the road. So today I'm going towards the A24, precisely somewhere around Rheinsbeck. So I'm going to do the B2, then I do the B2 is just the B is just an acronym for the Bundesstraße, more like the federal roads. So they are not the highways, they are next to the highways. So I'm going to do the B2, then I join the A9, then from the A9 I join the A10, then I join the A24, then I branch off somewhere on the A24 and I drive probably around 61, 64 kilometers to my destination. Yeah, so the sun is out again, and oh, I love it when the sun is out. It's such a nice feeling when the sun is out. It's a bit cold outside with 6 degrees, but it's not bad at all. When the sun is out and it's cold, you don't really feel it so much. Like when the sun is not and it's cold. Yeah, so I'll talk a little more about how to become a bus driver or a truck driver in Germany. There are several ways to go about it. But first of all, bear in mind that the license costs nothing less than 13,000 euros. So it is quite expensive to own a bus license or to own a truck license. And you literally can lose it within a blink of an eye too. When you lose it, it's gone. So when you have a bus or truck license, we try very much not to do things that will put us in situations where we would have our license taken away from us. Yeah, it's very expensive. I did mine for 14,000 euros. Of regulations, you have to renew it every 5 years. So every 5 years you have to go do the same process again. You do the eye test, you do the reactions test, you do the general body inspection, which is more like the medicals. Then after all of these things, you can now renew the license with the DVLA, which we call here the Führerscheinstelle. I'm speaking precisely for Germany because I don't know what entails in the process in other countries. But for Germany, I am very sure of it because I've gone through it. And I have the license, so I can attest for what I know for. So the first stage of getting through, the very first stage, is to either fund it by yourself, which means you've saved that amount of money, 14,000, and you want to pay for it yourself. That's the first stage. But let me put a disclaimer here. The 14,000 is basically what you need for the license. So if with the driving tests that you have to do in between, you fail any of the tests, or if any of the exams you have to take in between, you fail any of them, it means you have to re-register and retake up the exams again. And that comes with a lot of money. So imagine you fail 2 times your exams, you have to re-register for the 2, and then you take up the exams again, which means the 14,000, which is the basic, may extend, and you may go more. So the 14,000 is somewhere, let's say the basic amount you can spend on the license. Yes. So as I rightfully said, it's either you want to pay it by yourself, which means you have the money at hand and you want to go through all the processes. Now the first thing you do is to take up the application form with the driving school that teaches bus and trucks. And once you take up the application form with them, they will further refer you to the Führerschein Stelle or to the DVLA. And at the DVLA, you pick up a form from there and you apply. Then once you apply, they will run you through the various processes you have to go through, and they will refer you to a doctor, or if you have a doctor who can do it for you. But there are doctors who do these kind of inspections here in Germany. There are various categories of doctors, and there are specific doctors who have majored in medicals for workers and for other occupations. And so they do these tests. So you book an appointment, which of course is difficult to find appointments nowadays. So you book an appointment, and the earliest date you can have it, you have the appointment done for the eye test, for the reactions test, to see how fast you can react to situations, and for the general body medicals, to see if you're physically fit to do the job, because it involves a lot of sitting, and with the trucks you have to carry a lot of stuffs every now and then. And so these are the main stages you have to go through to render your qualification for the program. So once you do them, and once you qualify for them, you now start the driver program with the driving school, where you do approximately about 1 month, 2 weeks in the classroom. The 1 month, 2 weeks entails a daily classroom attendance, and so you have to be in class every single day. And the program starts from 7:30 all the way down to 4. So you have to be there as early as 7 or 7:30, and by 4 p.m. the program is done for 1 month, 2 weeks, which you learn a lot of things. And one of the models that you're going to be learning within the whole time has to do with the driver card. So if you watch my previous video, towards the end of the video I made mention of the driver card, and I showed what it looked like. So one of the models, like I'm saying, you're going to take when you're doing the whole education, is the model of the driver card. And that is a very, very important model. And because of that, you have to be in class every single day. An attendance is marked every single day when you're in class, and it's submitted to the government agency in charge of this particular vocational education, which is linked to police administration, because they oversee everything that has to do with trucks and buses. So yes, based on your attendance in the class determines whether you can go further or not, because they take these things very, very seriously. So after that, you now have to also do your normal pass theory exams. And with the theory, you get materials from the driving school for it. And these materials ranges from books to an app where you study the various themes and topics, and for which you answer approximately about 1,200 questions for the various topics you're going to study in the app. So after studying this, you register for an exam with the DVLA, and the exam is overseen by certain institutions here which are affiliated to the DVLA, and we call them DICRA or TUF. They oversee these exams. So you take the exam in their halls, and once you pass, you go through to the next stage. So the exams are mainly done online, and I think you do not more than 40 questions for everything. That is just for the theory for the bus, just for the bus knowledge. And road traffic rules and all of those things, just like you do with the normal smaller vehicles for a license B exams, right? So you have an app where you learn everything about the road traffic rules, about the truck, basic knowledge you should know. Then you're done with that. And whilst you await your practical exams, you also go and sit in for another exam, which the driving school would register you. I wanted to say the Fahrschule. That is what we say in Germany for the driving school, which the driving school will register you for. And this exam is overseen by the institution that regulates vocational education in Germany. We call them the Handelskraft, or in other words, the IHK, the IHK, so to say. So they oversee everything vocational education in Germany, and so you would take an exam with them. And the exam can only be done in Deutsch or in German language. And so there's a need for one to be able to at least have a good knowledge of the German language, read and understand. And so in your application, you'll probably be asked for a minimum A2 level of the German language with a good ability to express yourself, or a B1 certificate of the German language. So this is the basic requirements that you need just to be able to have the bus license done, because the exam is not so much in basic language where you can do with an A1. It's a bit of an advanced language. So I did mine at the time when I had my B1 certificate, and yeah, you don't need to be able to understand everything. You just have to study the topics you've been given, study it well, because you know what you want, and so you have to commit to it. Study it. In fact, they try to make it as simple as possible for us, so it doesn't become so stressful like an African exam, you know. So what they do is, you have the topic, you study the topic, and right after the topic there are questions with the possible answers. So what happens with the questions with the possible answers is, occasionally, once you restart the app, the options change. So for instance, if question 1 I had A as James, B as Frimpong, C as Edward, and D as Yao, now I'll have A as Yao, B as Edward, C as Frimpong, and D as James. This is what the app tries to do, to make it look a bit complex. But in simple terms, it's the same answers, and the right answer is still the same thing. So what you do is, once you study it and you know the right answer, wherever you meet it, regardless of how the answers keep changing in the option form, once you know your answer, you know your answer. So it's not a problem, right? So you take up this exam, and this exam is so very important, because this exam grants you access to the driver card, and also it grants you access to being able to drive commercially. By commercially, what I mean is, you can transport passengers like I do, or you can transport goods and services. If not, then you are not allowed to transport goods and services or to transport passengers. You are only allowed to do that when you have the driver card and you have the driver qualification card as well. There are 2 different cards which come from the same exams. So once you have the driver card and then the driver qualification card, then you can drive with passengers or with goods. So the qualification cards comes with a number which is labeled 95, and that is what we use for the commercial business. So either than that, you can just register for the driving school, put in your documents just for the driving school, apply with the DVLA, and take the option. You just need a license, you don't need the driver card or the commercial license, which is the commercial card. So once you have it like that, you can drive a normal bus, but maximum 8 passengers, not more than 8 passengers. It's just like driving with your normal license B with a minivan. The maximum passengers you can do is 8, but anything more than 8, you need the driver card to drive. And sometimes I drive with a Sprinter bus. We have a Sprinter bus, that is the smallest bus we have at my workplace, and that takes 19 passengers. That's why I drive mostly with a driver card, because you can drive without the driver card. I must also say and make this clear, you can't move the bus or the truck without the driver card. It is not allowed. It is never allowed to do that. The moment you do that, you would have a problem. If there's a control, you would have a problem. Yes. So you go through all of this process, and once you've passed the exam, now you come back to the driving school to do your driving practicals. So you do your driving practicals, and after the driving practicals, the driving school, when they notice you've passed to their level, recommend you for an exams, they register for you with the institutions that are in charge of the exams, the DECRA and then the TOEFL, and then you sit in for a practical exams. So with the practical exams, we have what we call the departure control, the APFAT controller. These are checks and balances you have to do before you even take off, and you need minimum 15 minutes to do so. So I'll explain later to you how this works and how this is synced with the driver card and your driving hours. Then once you sit in for the practical exams, which of course you'd have a bus, you drive around with the driver instructors and your driver instructor from your driving school as well. So your external and your internal driver instructors, you sit with them in the bus, you drive around, they do all that they have to do. You do the reverse, you do the parallel parking, you do the land roads or the federal roads, so to say. Then you do the highway also. And then once you pass the exams, you are awarded your temporary license. Then you submit the temporary license to the DVLA, and then they print your permanent license for you, which is the card itself. So in the time where you are waiting your permanent license, you are not permitted to drive outside Germany, because the European states don't accept that temporary license, which is just a piece of paper. So yeah, that is basically just a bit about it. So in a moment where you're awaiting your driver card itself, in the moment where you're awaiting your license, the card itself, you might have gotten your letter from the vocational body, the IHACA or the Handelskraft, to let you know whether you passed your exam or you failed the exam. And once you have it, if you've passed, then hooray, you're lucky. So you wait for your license to be in, the card itself to be in. Once the card is in, then you apply with the TOEFL or with the DECRA body, the same body which is in charge of the exams, the theory and the practical exams. You apply with them, and then they print your driver card for you, and it takes maximum 7 days for your driver card to be there. Then you have it. So there's the same body that we take our cars to yearly for road inspection and for roadworthy, and so they are very highly competent body that we can trust for the exams and for assessing driver applicants. Yeah, so that is for you who already have your own money and want to apply. Now we come to people who don't have the money and want to apply. So the first thing you have to do is you have to be here in Germany for minimum 2 years, and within these 2 years you have to work constantly for 2 years and pay taxes constantly for 2 years. So once you're you've been working constantly for 2 years and you pay taxes for 2 years, and after the 2 years you don't work anymore, then you can apply for the license, or you can apply to take part in the heavy duty driving, which of course the employment agency will gladly pay for it. So that is one side of it. The other option is for you to find an employer who is willing to absorb you into the system. And now it's easy to do because there are lots of employers around who want employees to work for them. So you go through the employment agency's websites. There are a lot of employers looking for candidates to work for them. You apply to them with an application and with your CV, what have you not. And if they are interested in helping you or taking you and giving you employment, and they take you, so to say, they employ you and they process it for you. So by processing, that means the company is going to pay for the whole license and everything. So you just have to go through the formalities of going through the doctor's protocols, the eye test, the medical inspection, the reactions test, and then they will recommend you to their own driving school which they work with. And then you go to the driving school and then you do the rest. And once you get everything through, you are done. So that is also another step you can go through. However, if you're going through the protocols of the employment agency, which means you are no longer working, now you have to fall on the employment agency for them to work things out for you. Things can be a bit stressful, given the fact that yes, they are going to pay for you, and so they have to make sure that everything is on point, and it involves a lot of bureaucracy. And so yes, you'll be stressed out a bit, but eventually they'll get it done for you. So that is pretty much about it, how to become a bus driver or a truck driver in Germany. So once you've gone through all of these protocols and you've got your license, if you went through the third route, which is a company employing you directly, then after that you just come work for the company. However, there are no laws regarding how long you can work for the company before the company lets you go, or you can change companies. But there's been a backlash from the Employers Association, mainly because you not spend per se, let me use the right words. You would invest 14,000, 15,000, 16,000 in an applicant, and then after a year, 2 years, the applicant tells you, hey, I can't wait for you anymore, I'm going. How are you going to recoup the money back as an employer? It's a big time loss to you. So now there's been some adjustments to the laws, which recently was being published. I'll try and see if I can find some of the articles for you later, which is now saying if an employer does something like that for you, the minimum you can work is 3 years, and the maximum should be 5 years. But however, it's still most employers would wish you to work for them minimum 5 years, so they can make the maximum from you and at least know they didn't waste the money. It's not easy coming by 50,000. It's not easy. So yeah, then you have a job. But if you go through the employment agency where they have to do everything for you, yes, once you are done, they also try to recommend you to companies where you can get employed, because there are a lot of companies who have enlisted on their platform looking for employees to work for them. So they will recommend you very often, so you can go for interviews with various companies, and when you meet the company's requirements and the company feels they can absorb you into their system, they absorb you. So that is also on the other side. However, if you did the license by yourself, you paid everything by yourself, and you want to go through the same channel for finding a job, it's also very easy. Apply to various companies, but here you have a choice, because you can apply to whichever company you feel you want to drive with and not be compelled by options to stick to certain companies because they fall within the employment agency's platforms, or because a company is financing your license for you, and so you would be stuck in there. Yeah, and with that, the advantage is you can pack your things anytime and then just leave. I'm not saying you just get up one day and then you just leave. You know, you have to go through the right process, submit your resignation letter on time and all, but you can literally move from one job to the other as of when you find a good offer, because you don't owe anybody and your license is for you. You paid it by yourself, so anytime you feel you want to switch jobs, you can just switch jobs with little or no stress at all. So that is the advantage to that. There's also a way out if an employer paid for your license, and the way out is you can have an agreement with the employer and have a monthly deduction for a period of time. If it's 3 years that a deduction will take place, after the 3 years you owe the employer nothing, because you've paid him back for what he financed. And so that is also another option. That is if you so badly want to switch jobs along the line, that is something you can also do. So I want to believe I've covered the major chunk of it, which has to do with becoming a bus or a truck driver in Germany. But take note that it is easier becoming a bus or truck driver in Western Germany, Northern Germany, Southern Germany than in Eastern Germany. So take note. Yes, everybody needs workers to drive for them. Everybody. But it's so difficult in Eastern Germany. I'm saying this because I live here and I work from Eastern Germany, and so I'll just be honest with you, then you don't have high expectations of it, because I'm saying it's easier to get them. I'm running you through the process, and then you try to apply for it and you get disappointed. So the best places I recommend for you would even be Western Germany. It's the best place to have your bus and truck license done. So this is pretty much about getting your license done in Germany. And with a driver card and a license together, you can drive the whole of Europe. In my company, we drive all through Europe. And so that is the advantage of having the driver card. But if you don't have the driver card, then it means you would have to just be within Germany. And that means you're not really doing anything commercial. So if you have any questions about what I just spoke about, how to get a bus or truck license in Germany, just leave your question in the comment section. I'll be glad to answer that for you and explain furthermore into details. So once again, I often get questions like, do bus companies recruit from outside Germany? That is a very interesting topic that we can talk about. As it stands now, my company is even recruiting bus drivers, and I posted the flyer in the previous video. But the problem is, it is so much of a stressful process for the employers to go through if they are going outside Germany to employ. The first question that comes to play is, have you searched the whole of Germany for workers? And if yes, you should show us proof of the fact that you have searched and you didn't find anybody in Germany to drive for you. That is why you want to go out there to outsource. And so it's not easy. The bureaucracy is it's a lot. It's a lot, and that is just one out of the numerous bureaucratic processes you have to go through just to get your bus and that is one of the numerous bureaucratic processes you have to go through as an employer just to get employees to work for you if you want to outsource from outside Germany. Yes, so it makes it difficult for employers to go out there to employ. And so, no, it is not possible for most employers to go out there to employ. Again, what makes it very difficult for bus operators and truck operators to employ outside Germany is the fact that the Handelskraft or the IHK, the vocational regulatory body which regulates the whole vocational education in Germany, doesn't want to conduct exams outside the jurisdictions of Germany. And so you can know how to drive, you can go through all the modules, even if any of the driving schools from Germany wants to extend any of their modules outside Germany. You can have all of these things possible, but at the end of the day, when it's time for you to take the exams, that very exams that involves the IHK, which has to do with the driver card and then the driver qualification card, you can take it outside Germany. And that is the biggest challenge. Why bus operators and truck operators can't employ outside the region of Europe. For Europe, it's the same rule. They all drive with the driver card. So if you're employing somebody who even comes from anywhere outside Europe, it is easier as compared to employing employing somebody who comes totally outside the jurisdiction of Europe. Yes, as far as I'm concerned, there is a company now in Hamburg, which is the biggest transport company in Hamburg. They do the city line. By city line, I mean they do the intercity transport, the normal linear verkehr, what we call the line buses. They operate the trams, they operate the S trains, the underground trains, and the city buses, which transport people within the city. So they have started a pilot project in Kenya, where they're training a group of Kenyan drivers just for the purpose of employment. So it's a maiden project they've started. And as part of it, the applicants need to learn the German language. So it's a whole integrated program. It's a 1-year process. The applicants learn the driving program, because they send their own driver instructors there to teach them to German standards. Then they find the applicants German tutors also, which I believe the tutors are from Goethe Institute, because Goethe Institute is everywhere. And so they go the extra mile to pay teachers to teach them, the applicants, the German language. And after the applicants have learned the German language and they can communicate, at least on a basic level, and they can drive the bus also, or the truck, but in this case it's a bus company, so they relocate them to Germany. And when they come to Germany, they have to go through the German driving school all over again for a refresher course. And not just a refresher course, they now have to sit in for the IHK exams, or the Handelskraft exams. So it's not as easy as we see it from the outside, right? It involves a lot of bureaucratic processes, it involves a lot of back and forth, a lot of stress for the employers. And so nobody wants to take up all of those things. Again, it's a lot of financing. You're putting in a lot of capital just to make sure the process goes through for you, because it doesn't come cheap. And so my simple answer would be no. Bus and truck operators do not employ directly from outside Germany, except it is within Europe. Then yes, some operators do that, employ mostly within Europe. And even that, the countries, the nationals or the applicants should be applicants who reside within the European Union, who have a good knowledge of the European driving laws and have their tachograph knowledge and have a driver card. So that way, yes. It's not as easy as we see it, right? It's just not as easy as we see and deem it. And we hope in the future maybe this phenomenon changes, because there is a great shortage of bus and truck drivers here in Germany. There's a great shortage, and we need to fill them up. It's really becoming a big problem. It's really becoming a big problem. because people are not interested nowadays in driving buses or trucks. But that has nothing to do with the job. It has everything to do with the generation. The generation is not interested in driving buses or trucks anymore. They're not the generation that wants to do anything vocational education. So it's not just limited to our field alone, but across all the other fields and sectors, from the electricians to all the servicemen, the technical men. You don't have the working force now to work, and it's a big topic that is being discussed day in, day out here in Germany. Yeah, so I certainly hope I've addressed two major issues today. One that has to do with how to become a bus driver in Germany, and the second that has to do with do bus employers employ outside Germany? So yeah, for me today is stay safe and keep your eyes on the road. I'll come back to your screens pretty soon. Take care of yourself. Until we meet again. Tschüss.